watching Tractor Talk with Gary.
Please raise your right hand. Solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Tractor Talk with Gary.
Whole name, please.
Tractor Talk with Gary YouTube. Hi YouTube. Today I am going to do a video on why gas prices are so high, my take on it. Now I'm not an expert, I'm not any kind of a PhD or a physicist or something, but I am somebody who looks at the numbers, and what I'm looking at the numbers is coming up with something totally different than what we're being told on TV and on the radio, on the news. I have no love for the media anymore. I think they've lost all credibility. They certainly have with me. But I'm going to do my best to keep this non-political. Like I said, it's my best. It probably won't be good enough, but I'm going to do my best anyway. Politics is driving quite a bit of this, in my opinion. Now, like I said, I'm not an expert. I have worked in the oil and gas industry, be that ever so little. Oh, get out of the road, baby. Anyway, I worked for 13 months in the fracking industry. My primary job was hauling sand, the refined sand, in a semi to a center where it was loaded on rail trains, and it was shipped to North Dakota, it was shipped to Texas, it was shipped to Montana, Wyoming, Colorado. We would load 100 train cars at a time, and they would be shipped out. And I did that for 13 months. It was a tremendous job. The president of the company was a friend of mine. We grew up together and used to run around together quite a bit when we were younger, and over the years, life just happens. You go separate directions, and kind of lost touch with each other. But his company was hiring. I applied, got a job driving a semi primarily, and then towards the end, they needed more help in the mine. They were short of miners, so they needed someone to drive the big haul trucks. Now, these big haul trucks are like big Tonka trucks. Their payload is 70 tons. Sometimes more than that. We would pile it on pretty good, and then you go up the steep haul road to what they call the Grizzly, which you back up, dump into, it grinds the sand and separates the rocks, pulverizes everything. Down below to a processing center where they grade the sand, and then they pump it in a slurry back up to towers. It dumps it in a pile. It's loaded from there into a mixer dryer and dried, and then loaded onto trucks at a really hot temperature and hauled from Clayton, Iowa to Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, a distance of about 34 miles. And in our 12-hour shift, we would usually, on a good night, if everything went good, each driver could get 7 loads in, and we would haul just beyond 26 tons each load. Now, having said all that, that does not qualify me as an expert by any means. So I'm a 66-year-old truck driver slash farmer slash part-time YouTuber. So take that at face value for whatever it's worth. What is a barrel of oil? The standard measurement in the industry. A barrel of oil is 42 US gallons. It's 159 liters, 35 imperial gallons. And the US alone, not keeping Canada out of this, the US alone uses over 20 million barrels of oil daily, each day. 285 million motor vehicles are operating on US highways daily. 4.09 million miles of navigable roads, 47,432 miles of interstate highways. 400 million gallons of gas each day, 128 million million gallons of diesel. There are over 500,000 trucking companies operating in the continental United States. There's 15.5 million trucks on the road almost on any given day. Over 2 million of those are tractor-trailer combination vehicles. 34.2 million tons of freight are moved around the U.S. each day by these trucks. The railroad has these black tankers, I will show a picture of one, that are the DOT Class 3 111 tanker cars, and each one of those holds 650 barrels of oil. Remember, I said a barrel of oil is 42 US gallons. So each one of those tanker cars holds 650 of those, or 27,300 gallons. And those are moving around now. Given those statistics, what the United States uses each day in oil, given that tanker I just mentioned, it would take over 300 miles of those every day. The state of Iowa is 306 miles across from Nebraska to Illinois, or Illinois to Nebraska, depending on which way you're going. It's 306 miles across the interstate Iowa, and on 80, Interstate 80 in Iowa, 306 miles. So it would, if you had a train car with 300, they won't be that big, but if you had one that big to operate on the oil that we use in the United States each day, it would be over into Nebraska and over into Illinois, completely connected. That's how much oil we use every day. And I bring this up because there's a lot of political move right now to switch us over to all electric. We aren't there. We aren't even close to there. We are, in my humble guesstimation, I would be willing to bet that we are probably decades out at best. Decades. It's going to take a lot. Oil is in so many different things. Petroleum used in all kinds of stuff. Pharmaceuticals, it's used in garments, it's used in plastics, it's used in just about any kind of manufacturing, whether it be a lubrication or the end product itself. Oil is the lifeblood of our country, like it or not. This is what we've got. I am not trying to come at this like I am pro-oil and not for alternative energy. I'm all for alternative energy, but we're not there yet. Wind can't power us and solar can't power us, and the combination of the two can't drive this. We need, the way things run now, we need oil. And the U.S. is about to be replaced as the global standard for the petrodollar, which oil is purchased and traded on. If that happens, and it looks like it's going to, if and when that happens, it's going to be devastating to the U.S. economy. You think we're going through some crap now? Buckle up, Buttercup. This is going to get a lot worse. And I don't see any short-term solutions coming to this. I'm not trying to offer solutions here. I'm trying to get a discussion going and get people involved here. Let's take a look at what's going on here, and let's try and come up with some solutions. The price of gas and oil and diesel is devastating to our economy. That money that's being spent there is not being spent somewhere else. That money is in circulation for something else. And so there are going to be those that say it's the greedy oil companies. We will get into that later. I think I can pretty well dispel that myth. And that's what it is. That's a myth. It costs a lot to produce oil. There's a whole lot involved in it. There's from the permitting and the seismic readings that they have to take to find out if it's even worth going after the oil. And then there's the permitting process. There's the building of the platforms to set the drill rigs on, the drilling, the fracking, all the stuff that's involved. Look at the materials alone that are involved and the transportation of all that. It's a rather vicious cycle, and I think we got here because back in the days of the boom of the oil industry, not all that many years ago, we drilled too much, I think, in my opinion. I think we flooded the market. We broke a lot of the companies that were doing it and doing the drilling and producing, and that caused a lot of trouble. So now you've got investors that don't want to invest in this. They take a look at this and they're saying, there's better ways, safer ways for me to earn money, and probably more money. So why would I do that? So this has been a long time coming. This didn't just happen. I watched a video real similar to this. Mike Morgan did one a while back, and I've been wanting to do this, but this is still kind of piggybacking off of his, copying his, if you will. Imitation is the best form of flattery. Mike Morgan is a rock star on YouTube, and he does his homework, so he knows what he's talking about. And I agree with him on just about every point that he made, except the one he made about Keystone Pipeline. He said he thought that had very little to do with the price. It should have had very little to do with it, but I think it had a profound effect on it. And we'll pick up with that later on. Well, I'm getting this video to parts of it to load up. I'm using both cameras, so I'm loading what I took on the GoPro right now. Like we discussed earlier, this country uses 20 million barrels of oil each day. We use a lot of oil. It is the lifeblood of our country. And the cost of fuel in trucking is driving up the cost of everything else. This is very much a vicious cycle. I have a friend that was a commercial diver, and he worked in the Gulf somewhat. He worked primarily in the North Sea, and he worked a lot over by Australia. But he was telling me, this has been several years ago, when horizontal drilling came out, that they had capped a bunch of oil wells in the Gulf, just capped them. They were drilling like crazy back then. And I think that's a lot of what has brought on our problems, is we over-drilled. We flooded the market, and we created a monster by doing that. And it's going to take a long time. This is not going to be a quick, easy fix, turning a switch back on and having this oil come back and everything will be all sunshine and lollipops. It takes a long time. Now the investors are very skittish. They're not going to want to invest in oil. It isn't just the oil companies doing it. It costs a lot of money. It takes a whole lot of capital to get all this going. And these investors are now gun shy. They're going to be looking for someplace safer and better to put their money in. And let's just say that these companies want to drill. And so what they do is they pick a site. They have to take seismic studies, do seismic readings to see if there's oil in there to even make it worthwhile to go after. Then there has to be an environmental impact study. That's going to take some time. Then the permitting process. Then getting everything set up, getting the drill rigs out there to drill, building pipeline for the natural gas, and everything coming off of there, getting all the workers set up. It's not an instant process. This is not going to be an easy fix. We're going to be living with this for some time. Like I said earlier, I disagree with Mike Morgan on a little bit, not a big issue here. We could both still be right about this, but he said that he thought the Keystone Pipeline had very little to do with this. And he also said he thought it was like a political pawn in a political chess game, and I agree. I think that's probably the case, but now that the Keystone Pipeline has been shut down, what was it like? I didn't look that up. It was like 90% complete. Well, a pipeline that's like 90% complete is 0% complete. It can't be used. So anyway, but when our current president was campaigning, he was talking of shutting down fossil fuels completely at the time. That's created a lot of nervousness. That's what I think. So there's my opinion. And all these other stats that I brought up, you can look them up. Anyone can look. I could look them up. Anyone can look them up. So anyway, thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.